Good evening, everyone. This is Hunter, aka the Ultra American TTRPGer, aka the Jonestown of Classic Gaming. Thank you all for coming in tonight, and it's going to be a special one today. But before we get into it, a couple announcements. First off, if you haven't been watching the video that's been going on before that we started, I am helping promote the Deck of Many Triggers by Giant Slayer Games. So if you want to try to remove the wokeness from your table, I would recommend getting this Deck of Many Triggers for your table. You can find the link to that in the description of this video, and it's a crowdfunding going on right now. So it's about $30, and then it's a little more maybe for shipping, right? Because of it's being shipped over from the UK. But I think it will be worth it. So many people got to make this deck, and then second off, I hit over 1,000 followers on X, and because of that, as I promised, next week on my next live stream, I will be doing a giveaway for my for a copy of White Star Galaxy Edition White Box Science Fiction Role Playing. And so make sure you stick around and stay tuned for that video. And now, ladies and gentlemen, and folks alike, it's time we drink the Kool-Aid a little bit tonight, because today we're going to talk about a topic that I usually try to avoid like the plague, but because of this nice gentleman that I've been interacting with and through a mutual friend of ours, I decided that we probably need to clarify some things and figure out what exactly is the BrOSR. So, everyone, please welcome to my channel, Scudda for Mike.
Hey, everybody. Hunter, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
No problem. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about yourself before we get started?
Sure. Scudda for Mike. I run a YouTube channel. We do solo plays over there, and we also talk about the gaming philosophies of the BrOSR.
All right. And just to kind of give a little more clarification and background, what is your TTRPG history?
Oh man. So I got started when I was about 6 years old. My dad and his best friends were playing Dungeons and Dragons, AD&D. And I would go into the room and try to peek around the corner and see what it is that they were trying to do. Kids were not allowed in the room. And so of course that made me really interested. I was like, what are these little toys on the table that they have? But that kind of sparked my interest in it, but I actually never played with my dad. It was no kids allowed. And so I just kind of pursued that interest a little bit into grade school. And some of the older guys in my community were running a GURPS game, and they let me. I was by far the youngest kid, I think 7 or 8 years younger than everybody else, but they let me join a GURPS game. And so I built a werewolf character. I still remember that guy. His name was Guru. And I got to play him a total of 2 times. Never got to transform into a werewolf because I didn't have the points to buy that ability yet. And then it was just a heartbreaker, so many games I would try to get involved in, but I decided at a certain point, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take this thing into my own hands, and I'm going to run my own game. And so I actually decided to do that significantly after I wanted to play. I think I waited until 5th edition came out to actually take the plunge into D&D again. I was big into Magic the Gathering for a long time. And so fantasy stuff was super interesting to me. I bought the starter box, the Lost Minds of Phandelver, and I got on Facebook. I was like, who wants to play this game with me? I don't know how to do it. Let's work it out. And surprisingly, a lot of people are like, I've always wanted to try that too. And I was never lacking for players. Yeah. I've never turned back ever since. I started with 5th edition, but I think I broke away from that after about 5 or 6 years because it's pretty intensive. You have to read these really thick books to run the game, and it was just too much. And so I looked into the OSR, found old school games. The first old school game I ever ran was BX, and I stuck with that for a really long time. Yeah.
Right. So to make sure I heard this correctly, you started with 5e. Did I hear that correctly?
As a dungeon master, yeah. I did play GURPS times, but.
So what made the change for you to go from 5e to AD&D?
Well, the first few modules and the first few books put out in 5e are awesome, really cool metal, the demon one that like is so cool. The dragon game was awesome. Curse of Strahd was really cool. And then like, and I committed, I was like, I'm gonna buy all these books and just run every game. And then they started putting out really weird stuff like the coffee shop college game where like you
Oh
can play in the
yeah.
hall. And what was some of the other really just weird stuff they were putting out? Oh, the Fairyland one where you don't even do combat. I was just like, why is this a thing? Tasha's kind of broke my interest in the system altogether because they were just like everybody can be anything, and it felt like they were designing for the players and not for the dungeon master. And none of my players ever bought anything. It was always me buying things, and then oh yeah, and then like there was a lot of they thems being put in, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, but like I was reading the Critical Role book, and it was like 30% of the population is a they them, and I was like, that is just ridiculous. What world is this for? Like, this is not for me. Who should be buying this stuff? I want to see like black and white art of like somebody getting skewered with a pole arm, and they're like, we're playing fantasy coffee shop. So
Yeah, I remember seeing that coffee shop book. I thought that was just really strange too. And then what really kind of put me off was when they released the Book of Many Things. And
oh yeah, I didn't even buy it.
What really put me off with that was, so again, it's no secret to everyone, I'm autistic. I make that's public knowledge for people. I diagnosed when I was 4, Asperger's on the autism spectrum. So when I heard that there's apparently an autistic paladin in the game, and they hired an autistic creator to make it, red flags immediately started coming up, because I know when companies try to do diversity in games, half the time it does not work out very well. And Polygon, I actually still have this link saved to the Polygon article where they interviewed the author that made like that character, and the way she described being autistic was like no different than like, say, if like you were a gay man coming out of the closet. That's basically how it sounded like. And that really, like, if I could barbarian rage, I felt like I could barbarian rage just reading that, basically.
Yeah, being on spectrum is a challenge. It's not something to market to sell people. Like, it's, you know, it's like it's a part of who you are, and it's not something to like it's diversity month, everybody buy this rainbow flag. It's like, come on.
Yeah. Like, so I'm not gonna away from
WotC, but
yeah, like I'm not gonna restrict people. Like, if you like want to do like these little things with your character, like I'm usually an open GM, so it's like I'm fine working with players if they want to do certain characters depending on the game. But then again, it's also like stuff like that. I'm like, you gotta take that with a grain of salt. And I'll be like, yeah, we're gonna have to figure out how to play this appropriately, or else if anyone hears this, we're gonna get like canceled or whatever. So humorously, I say that, but yeah.
Luckily, I found some really cool YouTube channels that helped kind of lead me down the path of like actual rock and roll, like really cool games, you know. Barrow Maze, I found that. I thought that was so cool. We were talking about Greg Gillespie before. His stuff is just awesome. I found John Mollison of Mr. Wargaming, and he started talking about how you can win at RPGs, and I was like, okay, let's click on this video. And that series really changed my whole perspective, because he lays out like the principles of how you can go back into the very first like true role-playing game, and you can still use it 40, 50 years later. So
yeah, and it's actually funny that you bring up like metal rock and roll, because some other podcasters I listen to, they're very big into Morkborg and also like that heavy metal band stuff. And it's actually funny how like some metal bands, they've talked to them, but like, oh yeah, we've done stuff with Morkborg, because it's just got that grim dark, that heavy metal kind of feel to it, because that's basically what Morkborg is. It's more like a rules light old school system where it's like you got to hack and slash, and it's like death is inevitable regardless of what you try to do half the time.
I like the art
with that
a lot in Morkborg. I do like
it. Does make it hard to read, though. It does make it hard to read, unfortunately. So yeah, exactly. Like I have the newest Crave is Pyreborg now, and I have the PDF, so I flip through that, and I'm like, okay, I cannot read the old English half the time. Right. So, but since we're on the talking about OSR type of stuff, let's now get to the brass tacks of why we're really here tonight.
Right.
So, if you could provide with me like a textbook definition of like what BrOSR is, how would you describe it?
Sure. So We are a group of over a dozen people, maybe 2 dozen. We don't really have like a roster of who we are. So like everybody's personality is very different, but the goal of the BrOSR is to identify and build a community. So we want to play games as close to the rules as written. We want to play a system that answers the most questions that'll come up at the table. We want to find like-minded people who are hardcore gamers and leaders in their community, people who aren't uh, strange and weird and they're socially awkward and they kind of like break down the table and make people feel uncomfortable. We don't want those kind of people. We're trying to cultivate and build something. And it's mostly about gaming. Like we just want to stick to the rules of the game.
Okay, so I do find it interesting that you only describe yourself as like a dozen or so guys, because with the way that it is on social media half the time when BrOSR gets mentioned, it feels like it sometimes feels like it's like there's a whole army of guys that like use that have the BrOSR label. It's like this is who we are kind of deal. So it's
Sure.
interesting to hear that. So are you saying like of like the main guys that like started it, or do you actually feel
Yeah.
like, or do you mean like, or do you recognize that there's like something outside of just the dozen of you, or kind of deal? I'm not
So
quite sure how else to word that. So
right. So I'm one of the new guys. They don't even consider me like some of the guys in there don't even consider me true BrOSR. But essentially there are the people who are BrOSR and use the hashtag because they like the philosophy. And then there are the guys who are innovating and playing in the back channels. We do have one prerequisite that you need to run a Battle Bronstein. The date actually expired for that a couple months back. So if you did not run a Battle Bronstein, whether in person or online, you're technically not supposed to use the hashtag. But I think that like we're pulling in so many people right now and they're finding out about our principles and our philosophies. And they're like, this is awesome. And now they're wanting to use that. And I welcome them in.
hold on, I see this comment from R Dubs for Law. He said each of the BrOSR guys is 10 hit dice and worth 50 men.
He's
I just
not
thought
wrong,
that
man.
was funny.
It's about being principled. So I think that we like to challenge each other. We're like, bro, come on. Did you even read the rule book? Did you read the manual? Did you go to the gym today? Come on, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're acting weird. You're freaking people out. Don't be a weirdo. We don't like that kind of stuff. We want to challenge each other to be better men. We believe, and this is something I was mentioning to you on Twitter, that it's not just a game. Like D&D is not just a game. For us, it's a lifestyle, because what you do with one thing is how you behave in all things in your life. So if you are disciplined and you make it to the gym every day, if you are disciplined and you read the manuals, if you are disciplined and you excel at work and you are a leader in your community, your neighbors can trust you. They can call on you for a favor. Like that is the kind of clubhouse mentality that we are trying to build in the BrOSR. And it's something that lacks. It's significantly lacking in society nowadays, that like people are bowling alone. That is a very new principle. Male clubs, clubhouse games, war gaming communities, like this is something that's getting lost and we're trying to bring it back.
So from what I'm hearing, it's not just like a respect for the game and kind of what came before. It's also the kind of like the brotherhood mentality, just being like a group of men that get together and they enjoy a game that they all have mutual respect for. Which, to me, that male bonding time is a big thing that I think we severely lack, especially with today's environment that we live in. So,
yes, sir.
All right, and you also mentioned Bronstein, which is another thing I wanted to bring up, because the very first time I ever heard about Bronstein was when I started following Harmony and listening to her shows, talking about her game, which sounds really interesting. And I like the idea that she had the players get to build this world, that she kind of helped them start off, and now she can like go like step away, and now they all can basically take charge kind of deal.
Yeah.
But I don't think I ever.
Yeah, our women's division is better than most conventional tables. Like our women's division is crushing it.
So what would you call, would the women's division be like the WOSR, or what would you call that?
We just call it our women's division. They are innovating and crushing it online. They're making friends. They're building the community. We're proud of our ladies division.
That's good. Okay, so going back to the Bronstein really quick because I don't think I ever I don't think I fully understood what Bronstein actually is supposed to be. I feel like I have an idea, but not
Hmm.
I don't feel like I have it like a full grasp of it. So how would you explain Bronstein to someone who isn't
Yeah.
familiar with it?
So we have like a textbook answer, which is
Hmm.
independent characters operating under a shadow of war. Sorry, shadow fog of war, and they're not their goals are not always aligned. So
Hmm.
while these independent agents are carrying out their personal goals, they're role playing, like they want to pursue the things that they love. Sometimes those goals come in conflict with the other players. We give orders to the dungeon master in secret, and that allows us to make our moves and make our plays without the other people at the table knowing exactly what's going on. That is the Bronstein philosophy. But a battle Bronstein is an event, a one night event usually,
Hmm.
where people come together, everyone takes control of a faction or sometimes one character, and they pursue. Yeah, nice. They
What?
pursue their goals in through the fog of war. And the way my Bronstein plays out is different than the way other people's Bronsteins will play out because it's a philosophy, it's a style of play. We are not playing Bronstein, the Bronstein. We're playing a Bronstein. I play a medieval Bronstein at my house. It's called the Broken Duchy. The purpose of it is the all of the players are controlling a high level a baron in this duchy, and they are competing in a war game to see who can take control of the duchy whenever it's all said and done. So they each get an army, they set up a base. There's a week long in real time, in 1-to-1 time, where they can scout out different hexes on the map and answer different questions. They keep the answers that they find from me, which are factually correct, they keep these a secret from the other players, or maybe they build alliances and they share these answers so they can gain each other's trust. But the players don't know, are they lying about these facts that they've heard? Are they telling me the truth? Can I trust them? And so you're seeing this branching spider web effect where, like, if you have 6 people playing, maybe these 2 are aligned over here, but players 5 and 6 are aligned, but players 1 and 5 are also secretly aligned. But 2 and 3 are over here saying, like, no matter what, we're going to kill number 4. As soon as the game starts, we both send our armies at number 4. And so there's a week-long event where they can gather facts, and then there is an event at the table. Everybody shows up, and we play out a week of events over a period of about 5 hours at the table. And they're
Cool.
moving their armies through the fog of war. Nobody knows where everybody's moving to. They have their plans, they have their alliances that they've made, and they know pretty clearly where the battle lines are. They know who the enemy is. And then they send me their orders, and then we adjudicate. We do mass combat. We battle it out. Whoever wins the hex gets the points for the resources that are in that hex. Mountains are worth more points than forests, and rivers are very valuable as well. And we tally points at the end of every game day, and then at the end, whoever has the most points or whoever has killed everybody else wins the event. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. But it sounds to me so I actually own a copy of The Secrets of the Blackmore DVD,
Hmm.
and we're basically kind of learning about the history of all that, kind of how some of that was made and all that. And it sounds very much like the miniature war games that they used to play back in the day
Hmm.
before D&D actually became what it is
Yeah.
now, or what it was known for. So is that
It is a war
how
game.
is it?
Yeah.
Well, the original versions, yes. I wouldn't say that so much now, but back then
Oh,
definitely
we're
was
playing
definitely a war game.
AD&D. Yeah, we're playing AD&D. So we
Yeah.
just use the AD&D rules as it's intended, which is mass combat, battle it out. It's absolutely so fun because at the end of every day, the points get tallied, and the different players are like, "How did you get those points? You're supposed to be over here." And then whenever we pull people into the back room, because we're all in this apartment, right? There's different rooms for them to pull each other aside and have these secret conversations. But the main room, my bedroom, has this huge battle map set up, and all of their miniatures are on there. So whenever I call people back, I'm like, "Okay, come on back." And they're like, "Wait, the 2 of us? We're supposed to be allies." And they look at each other, and one of them's like, And then like 3 people go back and they're like, wait, what are you doing here? And then like they realize that they struck an alliance with the wrong people. And you'll see this level of tension rise with a Bronstein that you cannot replicate with a conventional game, because the entire time your players are like this. They didn't text me back.
Oh no.
Hey Mike, did you hear anything about Jeff? He never said anything to me about our plans. Did you hear? I'm like, I can't talk about anything somebody else sends me. And then that just builds their tension. I was getting text messages throughout the night being like, I changed my mind. I don't want to move my characters. I want to do this instead. Like, it's just so fun because they don't know who to believe. And it's just the fog of war. If you can maintain it throughout the entire process, it will generate the game for you, because the players don't trust what they don't know.
Nothing brings a smile to my face more than messaging one player with very specific information and then telling no one else about it. And then seeing the other ones being like, what did he tell you? What did he tell you? And the other player just says nothing. It's like, let's go. We're like, wait, what's going on? Oh, that always brings a smile to my face, just because it's like, yes, Mr.
I think everybody.
Mr. Burns, excellent.
So excellent. Yeah,
exactly.
Everybody should run Bronsteins. They're amazing. This is the future of gaming. Everything that we've done before, like we can look to the distant past. We can take the things that they learned and we can apply it to the games that we're doing now. And we can throw out some of the nonsense, terrible YouTube advice from YouTubers about how to run D&D games. Like, such terrible advice right now. Throw it out.
Yeah.
Bronstein.
So one game I do own, because when you were describing how you ran AD&D, I think this may be some. I don't know. Are you familiar with the Forge in the Dark system, which is used for like Blades in the Dark at all?
I know the Powered by Apocalypse stuff.
Okay, so Forge in the Dark is kind of another spin on that system, with the exception of is you're rolling a dice pool, and the highest result on the dice determines like the outcome. And there's one version of that uses it. It's called Band of Blades, and it's a fantasy military tactical game. You're controlling a legion army, and you're trying to travel from one place to another, and you have to you all control like multiple people. Like, you have the people that are like running the army, and then when you go out on assignments, you have other people, and it's that are like you have like your rookies, your soldiers, then you have like specialty class kind of people, and they have playbooks for all of this too. And then you have some special people that can give you like abilities and stuff that can help you, but it's very much like very tactical, very militaristic kind of style. And I've been actually listening to a podcast that's been playing through it, and because one of the ways that I learn about TTRPGs is more about like watching the videos, listening to the podcast. I learn more that way than always, because I can read a book and get some idea from it, but when I listen to how it's actually played, I get a better understanding of it. So which is why, like, if I'm trying to learn a new game, I try to see if there's podcasts out there, and most of the time there's at least one, thankfully.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, I built a YouTube channel trying to help people learn how to play old school games. I mean, there's an absolute deficit for information on how to do this stuff correctly. And I think what I did was I just made a bunch of mistakes. The players would be like, hey, Mike, we did read the rules. We read all the rules. But, one time through, you still kind of fuddle it up or whatever, muddle it up. And so they'd be like, hey, Mike, we found this actual rule. You ruled it wrong last time. Let's go through this again. And that does work. And you'll actually become better at the game if you just kind of fumble and just figure it out. But yeah, YouTube is a resource, and we need to be using that, or Rumble as well.
Yeah. Although there's like a bunch of us, because Patty's here in the chat, and he does TTRPG stuff as well as his own little art stuff, and he's trying to do this pig bush to get like some of us guys be like, hey, let's get some other stuff on Rumble besides just all the political stuff that we keep seeing on here, which not all of it's bad, but it's nice to see a variety like we do.
So I uploaded a video one time to Rumble, and I just edited it on my phone. It was like a while ago when I was trying to figure out how to like do YouTube. Before
that was your mistake, was doing it on the phone.
Right. And so I edited it on my phone, and then I uploaded it to Rumble, and it uploaded the version that was never edited. And so like you can hear me being like, okay, we're gonna have to cut this part of the video. And I was just like So
And
yeah, you want to talk about more BrOSR stuff? There's other philosophies. It's not
oh,
just the bro scene.
I did it. No, I remember. I spaced out, and I remember the question I was going to bring up because this is something I've kind of been seeing floating around and just online as well. So you talk about like basically like because another thing that I also agree with is like it's read the FA manual
Mm.
or which is read the FA manual because there's people that they just run the game without like actually reading and I'm using Shadow Dark for example. I actually just got this like last week and it
Oh,
came
cool.
just in time for the video that I last did last week. So it's actually a
Yeah,
really good book. I
I
would
like
I
that.
would prefer the special cover, but I don't like the green. But anyways, that's beside the
Mm.
point. So one thing is when people advocate for like rules as written kind of stuff is like, okay, I can understand if you want to play it that way, but now my question is, do you allow like house rules or homebrew at your table?
Mm. Well, it depends. If I'm playing with the bros or if I'm playing a bro game, no, we're gonna play it rules as written. Yeah. If I'm playing with my wife, so like here's the thing. I live in China, and so I'm the only American at my table. A lot of the
Mm,
people who I'm teaching how to play, they play like this is their second language, and so it doesn't really serve them very well to play a game that has like a dense manual. The easier the rules, the better for people who are learning from their second language. But in my bro games, when I'm playing with English speakers, native people, my best friends, the boys, we
hmm
we stick to rules as written.
Okay, because because there's some issues where I have people that when I did get in arguments with people on Twitter about it or X or Twix, that's why I also refer to it as Twitter combined, Twitter and
Mm,
X combined. It's Twix. So left or right doesn't matter which one. It's the same candy. So
fair enough.
I lost my train of thought again. Oh yeah, I remember now. Because there were guys that were saying no, you have to like you should play raw, and then again like oh, but I have these homebrew and house rules that I like to do all the time. And to me, because I take sometimes I think very technical, logical, or sometimes literal, and I'm just like, doesn't that kind of like deviate from playing rules as written if you're allowing like homebrew and house rules? Would you think that, or am I being completely wrong in my thought process
Yeah,
on that?
you would not be playing raw if you're adding in your own rules. So what I'm going to get back to a little bit, like to answer your question, I want to go back just a little bit. The
Okay.
bros are trying to build a clubhouse mentality. We want a place, whether it's online or an actual physical place would be even better, where you can go and be men and play a war game or whatever game you guys choose,
hmm
and you could take that game or be a player in that game and go to another clubhouse and play that exact same game. And so what we want is to this system backwards and forwards. You become an elite dungeon master, you become an elite player, and now you can travel to your buddy's hometown. You can be a player in his game and you don't have to learn anything new. You can build and plan and execute your strategies based upon a universal language. The lingua franca is Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Hold on. Did you say Alua Frankla? Did I?
The
How do you?
lingua franca, basically the universal language, the the same script. We all want to be able to use the same rules and not have to
Okay.
like learn anything new. Yeah.
Okay, so if it's just like a game that you're running that's not like with those guys,
Mm.
you're kind of a little relaxed. Like the example I use is like I said before, I'm okay with like some homebrew stuff because like and actually I was talking to someone else about this is because someone was talking about like PDF merchants, which is supposed to be like people who just make
Mm.
like bunch of PDFs out there. But what I and the thought that came in my head when someone said that was well, not every game has everything that someone may want. Like for example, one of my games I play is called Horde Wars. It's a D12 medieval fantasy system. The guy
Mhm.
only has 5 different race species to choose from in that game,
Mm.
which while
Mhm.
not bad, me as a player, as someone who likes to be very creative sometimes with my characters, the same
Right.
5 races can get boring after a while, especially when you already make one of each.
Mm.
Again, not on the creator's fault. It was his game. It's how he wanted to do it, and
Yeah.
he's kind of doing the same. He has a basic, and he's about to release an advanced version of Horde
Yeah.
Wars, which
DM
is gonna
Blackwell, right? Yeah.
yeah, DM Blackwall exactly.
Yeah.
He's a great guy, a very strong Christian. It's like I actually have to make sure I watch myself in the chat because sometimes I go like, Jesus Christ, and he's like, hey, watch it. So I'd be like, sorry, I have to remember that sometimes because
Mm.
even though I consider myself a Bible believing Christian, I'm kind of, my mind is very much laxed on a lot of stuff, so I gotta make sure I like
Mm.
reel myself back in sometimes. But yeah, but like he doesn't have a lot of races, just those 5. So sometimes my thought process likes to, if I was to make a race supplement to put in there, how would I like figure it out to work? Like if you
Mm.
can make it work in the game and you're not like completely breaking the system, that I think that would be okay. But then again, like you
Mm.
said, it would have to be at like that specific table. Like you can't just have someone walk you to your BrOSR setting and then be like, hey, I want to play this. It's like, no, we only play raw here and we only play with what this book gives us.
Right.
So
Yeah. So like whenever I'm playing with my wife and her Chinese friends, and like we have couples that we play with, so like 50% of my table, are foreign, or what we would consider foreign in America, are foreign women. And so like first of all, the females, like they're kind of just like, we want to play, yeah, but we're not gonna like strategize a military war game like AD&D. And the fact that it's their second language, they're like, we can't, like we can't parse through these books the same way. Like if they offered me a Chinese book and they're like, here, Mike, read this, I'd be like, I got about 20% of that. So we I simplify the games when I'm playing with them. But whenever when I'm playing with the boys, my best friends, the guys, like we are high level strategy. We're going all in. We're checking every rule. We're memorizing the best way to like move your troops. Like we're maximizing efficiency. It's a different kind of game, right?
yeah, and also that makes me think of, it's actually something we kind of both, it seems we both agree on, is we're very much agree with like everyone at that table is in sync with what we want to do, how we want to play. Like
Yeah.
just for example, like when I run my City of Mist game that I do once a month,
Yeah.
it's like we all like, this is what we're playing. This is how we're going to play it. Like I walk through character creation with them because some of them the people that I run it for were still fairly new to the game. I ran some one shots before we actually started the campaign,
Mm.
and so, but it was like, hey, is this and this? And then again, it's like, so one of the things that I actually do like, this is something that I got from Morkborg, which I eventually came to learn from a buddy of mine. Actually, was from the AD&D, was how the roll for initiative, where Morkborg 1d6 1 through 3 is enemies first, 4, 5, 6 opponent, you guys
Mm.
first. And
Okay.
I honestly like that in way to do
Mm.
initiative so much more than like how some other systems do it. That I
Yeah.
use that if I ever run other games, I try to implement that usually. And
Side
then like,
initiative is awesome.
yeah, and
Yes.
then what's interesting how Todd does it in Horde Wars, you have the initiative rolls, highest goes first, but then you picture it like you're sitting at a table. You start with that person who rolls the highest goes first, and then you just go clockwise.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
So
I like side initiative. Like, if you're shooting into melee, tell me. If you're running in and charging, tell me. And then just boom, everybody goes. It's
yeah,
fast. It's punchy. And then the next round, you could go again and really get the advantage. Or like the worst case scenario is the bad guys go 2 turns. Like they go second, then go
exactly.
first, and then they go first the next round. You're like, we're not gonna make it, boys. I love
All right,
that.
have a good night, Crossface. Thank you for stopping by.
Crossface, man, dude. Yes, my boy. I like that guy.
Yeah, I've heard kind of through the grapevine about him. I don't know much about him, but I've heard some
He
good
is
things about
amazing.
him.
Like he's
So
like a leader. He's a leader of men, which is the kind of person that we want in the BrOSR. Yeah.
yeah. All right. What else did we want to talk about? We talked about
Sure. Do you want to talk
Bronstein.
about? We have patron play. We have one-to-one time. Why Advanced Dungeons and Dragons is the greatest game ever made. We could talk about that.
Oh, that's actually, since we're already on the topic of AD&D, because again, that's still your opinion. Still, I will say, but that's me saying that. So you explain to me why AD&D is supposedly the greatest out of all. Like again, I have this pile of different TTRPGs that I have either played or read through that I like because I wouldn't own it if I didn't like it.
Sure.
So why? So out of all the massive library of TTRPGs, why is this one from almost dinosaur age, almost at this point, the best still out in the running?
Yeah. It is the most complete game. Now, let me put a caveat in that. Very recently, I backed him on Kickstarter. Alexander Macrease Autark Gaming has released Adventure Conquer King 2.
I hear a lot of good things about that one.
Yeah, I have the advanced PDFs, and so there is one more game that is more complete than Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and it just came out. The books aren't even done yet, and he's still working through the PDFs. But I do have the advanced copies. I'm reading them. It is more detailed. So we play 2 games in the BrOSR: Adventure Conquer King and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We do that because they are the most complete rule systems. They answer the most questions at the table, and they provide the longest running campaigns possible. Other games, they just pull stuff from AD&D and then sell it again. Even Shadow Dark, which I am a huge Shadow Dark supporter, she just took the Hex Generation rules straight. She took them directly out of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons and dropped them into Shadow Dark. So all of these things, it's like you read these, you buy these new systems, and I do this myself. I will buy a PDF of a system that I think is cool just because I want to support the content creator. I think that it's okay to spend your money on stuff even if it never gets played, because you like this person, you want to buy something for them so they can continue to pursue their passions. I will do that. And then I will read through the book and I'm like, oh, well, AD&D answers this. Oh, they don't even have anything for this in the system at all. And that happens in every system aside from these top 2. These S tier games are up here and everything else is below it because they're not as complete.
So before we continue on, so I would like to understand a little bit more. When you say it is a complete system, I'm trying to understand what you mean by that, because I could say this player's guide, to basically start playing City of Mist, it has everything in this book, and then the other books came after just be like some extra supplement stuff, a campaign book. But if you want just the rules, the same as Player's Guide already has it. Also, I would say this is a complete game. So I don't know if we're talking about it differently, if you expand on that, or
yeah, sure. So there are questions that are going to come up at the table that you can't answer from that book, and if you're trying to play from the rules of that book in a universal way, I want to go over to my buddy's house who's running City of Mist, or I want to go to the local game shop and run City of Mist. If a question comes up at my table, I have to just come up with an answer or buy an additional supplement or go online and see what other people are doing. But then whenever I go to the game shop, the DM who's running it there had to answer it in their own way with their own friends. And then maybe they found different resources to answer that question. And so what we want is a system that you don't need to buy any additional supplements. You don't need to look online for the answer because it's already written and in a complete book with as many answers as you can possibly come up with.
All right. Lord Mateus actually asked me a question, and he said, but doesn't that categorical system imply that all systems are designed to do the same thing? E.g., Shadow Dark is not about patron play, it's about dungeon crawling.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what kind of game you're trying to play. I play all kinds of games. I love Call of Cthulhu. I love, I play Classic Traveler. I saw that you were interested in that. Classic Traveler is in no way the same category as Advanced Dungeons and Dragons. We are trying to do 2 completely different things. We Bronsteined Classic Traveler, by the way, Mateus.
So you did kind of like Rebels versus the Empire kind of style gaming, or what do you mean by
that? So Classic Traveler is more like it's like you generate a world. You randomly. Sorry, I have construction happening upstairs, and so I don't know if you guys can hear that hammering. But you generate some random characters, and they each get a couple skills, and then you generate a planet, and there's some basic facts about that planet, population, size, stuff like that, and then you drop them in, and it's more like Tatooine, the crime syndicate kind of stuff. You can play any version of that game you want, but our Bronstein, everybody was kind of out for themselves, trying to get off planet to go to a new, better planet. And so we needed credits and we started battling it out, and everybody was just basically making alliances and then betraying each other. R-Dub's in the chat. He got murdered by Dundermoose, who I see is also in the chat. And then Dundermoose turns the gun on me, and he's like, and we're both like, I have my sword. He's pointing a gun at me. He's like, don't do it, man. I'm like, you murdered my friend. And then he murders me. And then he goes on to murder so many other people. It's just, So while I get what you're saying, Lord Mateus, that every game kind of has its own purpose and like what are you trying to get at, you can Bronstein any system. We've Bronsteined a lot of different systems. So the idea that you can be an independent agent operating in the shadow, the fog of war, and like just carrying out your goals against the other players while they're carrying out theirs against yours, that applies to every system. And I've Bronsteined Shadow Dark. I've done it with BX, which was really easy. Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, though, does it the best because it gives me the most answers. I don't have to just make things up. Classic Traveler, you're making everything up. It's you roll a couple of dice and then like a reaction roll. You're like, all right, I got to make it up now. It's a cool system, but you can do it.
Yeah. I had another thought and I just lost it. Oh yeah, I remember now. So
Yeah.
you mentioned patron play, which I don't think we actually have brought that up until just now. So what is patron play? I am not familiar with that.
Dude, it is so fun. So there are people who you enjoy gaming with, right? But they can't line up their sessions with you. Like they just can never make Thursday nights or whatever game night you have. You can have them, you can assign them high level NPCs in your game, and you just basically text them, say, hey, the players last Thursday, they went into your castle, they killed one of your lieutenants, and they robbed you of your precious boots of striding, right? What would you do? And then they're like, oh, okay, well, I would hire up a bunch of mercenaries and, like maybe sweep into the town. Basically, you're giving control of the NPC who's in the story, who you've built a part of the game, but you're letting somebody else run and take that burden off of the dungeon master. I had at one point, I had like 6 patrons in my world. One was the assassin, the leader of the Assassin's Guild. One was like the leader of the church. One was leader of the town. One was trying to take over the town. And then there was like a chaotic evil guy in the south who was marching steadily forward, burning villages all the way. And so you can see the game evolve at a much more rapid rate and in a much more complex way than if the DM's trying to control all those NPCs and make something fun for each one.
Wasn't that basically kind of what Harmony was doing with her table from the videos I saw? Was that kind of basically it, or was that just kind of like an offshoot of what that was doing?
I'm not 100% sure how she did it. I did watch her videos on it. Yeah, I think she gave the gods to her players and then let them create the world. That's what patrons are. Like you're basically saying like, here's this massively powerful character with an army and you're evil and you want to destroy the cities to the north. What do? This guy ruined people's day. So he operated in his own group chat. His name was Lord Malachi, and he got some players who wanted to play chaotic characters. They joined his group chat, and he would say, okay, I want you guys to go, I want you to burn this little town, start a fire in this little wooden village, and then I'm going to move my army. When the heroes try to respond to that, I'm going to move my army into this military base, and we're just going to destroy it. So I need you guys to run distraction for me. And what you're seeing is like this chess level, 4D chess level game where like I'm controlling the world, the clock is running the world, the players are controlling their little their PCs, and then we have these several high level patrons who are like factor 10x. Who are just impacting the level of the campaign. Things unfold really quickly. It's really fun.
When I think about like if I was to like try these like old school games, like I don't think I would be comfortable enough like where I am, like because I'm always learning. Like I'm not because like my post I made about like TTRPG experts and all that. Like even though I have all these different games, I wouldn't consider myself an expert because I feel like I'm always learning something new or whatever. And I feel like I would have to, because like the City of Mist book, I was pondering this for like 2 years before I finally felt comfortable enough to run a game of it, because I want to make sure I was at least doing it right. Like I was doing what you said. I was reading the manual, trying to play rules as written first before I did anything else.
Yeah.
And so if I was to run AD&D, there's like a couple people that I would think of that I would want to be my dungeon master for an AD&D game. My first choice would be the Dungeon Delver. I don't know if you follow him at all on YouTube.
I do.
He does Tuesday nights AD&D, and then actually tonight, I think right now, he runs First World Gamma Edition, which I own a copy of that book now because of him. I now own First Edition Gamma World. So he's
Okay.
doing that tonight.
Well,
And
brother, let me challenge you. Okay.
hmm,
Let me challenge you. You can do it. So one of the things about Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, it's not organized very well because it was written in a time before people really knew what TTRPGs were.
mhm,
But our knowledge base about what gaming can be and what it has been for 50 years, we have a collectively learned a lot. So there's nothing in Advanced Dungeons and Dragons that is beyond your scope. It's just not laid out in the best way. The font is
yeah.
like 10 font. That's the only issue. Like there's nothing in it. Like if somebody like me, dude, bro, I am so low intellect. If somebody like me can do it, I promise you that you can do it too. Like I am not the brains of the BrOSR. I am not the innovator. I'm like one of the fun happy face guys. That's what I am. And so my job is to promote the BrOSR, but the big thinker guys, like the ones who are like coming up with faction play, 1-to-1 time, like really implementing
Mhm.
this stuff into new systems, like they're like the brains of this operation. And I can handle it, you can handle it. I promise.
Yeah.
Everybody can.
Yeah, and then my second option I would say was I would trust you to be able to run a game of AD&D for me if I was to learn it,
Sure.
because I feel like you would be able to teach me. Like if I was messing something up, like you're not gonna be like the toxic dungeon master, who's like, no, that is not how you play. I'd be like, hey, it's like, let me teach you the rules. This is how you actually do it, kind of deal. I feel, because like I've shared, my experience with a lot of people who claim they are BrOSR or are BrOSR has not been of the best experience. So my only positive experiences, I think I would say, would be you, Harmony, even though she doesn't actually qualify that, she's adjacent. And then
Yeah.
I'll put Jeffro on the list. Jeffro is a weird troll dude, but I find his stuff humorous. And like, it doesn't bother me when he quote week treats my posts to disagree with me. Like, I have no issue with that. I
Mm,
think it's because he's not like trying to be like, he's, to put it bluntly, he's not being a major dick about it like some of the other guys
mm,
I've talked with have. He's kind of
yeah.
just he's sharing his own thoughts, and everyone has the right to that. It's X. But
Yeah.
Jeffro, it's like I see that his quote retreats, and I just giggle every time. I just find him humorous.
Yeah.
He's cool in my book for the most part. I don't have any beef with the guy, whatever.
Yeah.
Like the first time I ever heard about him was when he was on Harmony stream, and then I was like, I was wanting to learn about Bronstein because this was supposed to be the expert about Bronstein, and all I
Yeah.
hear him is talking about ballet. Apparently, he went off a ballet tangent, and I was
Yeah,
like, he's
swing
weird.
dance, yeah. Well, I think, but the thing is, it comes back to how you do one thing is how you should do everything, and we do value the ability to be able to interact socially well, and social dances are. If you can extrapolate the same principles from Dungeons and Dragons and apply it to every aspect of your life, whether it's social dance or just like a gaming club like bowling or going to the bar and playing darts with people, um, there's a lot of skill in being able to negotiate socially with women and with men in a way that makes unequivocal statements. And so, like, I know you have a lot of issues with the BrOSR because we say this is the best thing, and you're a nerd if you don't agree, or you're a dork if you don't. But nobody is going to listen to the person who says, like, yeah, okay, so let's use this as an example. You're traveling to Denver for the first time. You're going on vacation and you're like, "Oh man, when I get to Denver, I want to do something fun. I want to go, I want to go to the best restaurant. Whoever has the best pizza." Let me Google that real quick. You would not click on the article that says all the pizza in Denver is great. It just, depends on what you like, it's whatever. You'd click on top 3 pizza places, best sausage, best pepperoni, like whatever. You're looking for unequivocal statements, categorical statements that say like this is the right answer. And so I know that like in college, whenever we had to like write papers and stuff, it's like if you wrote a paper and you're like, here's my opinion, every opinion is right. There is no definitive statement, like you'd fail that. They would fail you on that paper. You have to say like, this is the right answer, and here are the reasons why I believe that. And so I know that like we come off as turds sometimes, but mostly it's about challenging people, and we use it as a litmus test. If you can say like, because they teased me when I first came in, they're like, "You play BX, nerd," like I was like,
Yeah,
"Well,
but
I like BX though," But like, if you can kind of bounce back from it and be like, "You know what? I accept your challenge. What's up? Let's read this book," and then you start running games at a higher level, and not all games are created equally. There are some that are better than others, you know?
I agree completely. There are like maybe I think I have like 2 or 3 books that caught my interest. I bought them. I read through them. I'm like, why did I buy this again?
Right. You're like,
Because
I don't need
like
this.
to this day, I have such a hard time trying to find a good superhero TTRPG because I've come across so many, and I read through them. I'm like, I don't like the feel of this one. That's my thing.
Yeah.
And this is me. I've always been more of a rules light guy when it comes to a lot of games, which is why this is why I like Shadow Dark, why I like Mork Borg, why I like Power by the Apocalypse. Because again, I on my GMing, I call it my GMing style. It's more about like being creative, a little more narrative focused, while still throwing in that role play. Like
I
I've
love
had
role.
sessions. Like I've had sessions of City of Mist where it's like it was like there's like maybe like 2 or 3 dice rolls that may happen, and the interactions is all based on the role playing between all the characters. Like, how is
Sure.
everyone interacting, and what is going to happen from this role playing happen? Because I've had things where it's like they role play it, thinking it's going to get one option, and it's giving them something completely different instead. So I want to. There's stuff I can go into, but I don't want to spoil it in case any of my players find it. So I can't.
Well,
I'm not going to say anything.
so one way to look at it is like, everything is a nail if you only have a hammer, right? So like, whenever I'm teaching my 5-year-olds how to play Dungeons and Dragons, I don't teach them advanced Dungeons and Dragons. I don't teach them that. We use Hero Kits. It's a tool for that. If I'm teaching people who are second, like English is their second language, if I'm teaching them how to play, I'm going to teach them a very rules light game like BX or Shadow Dark. If I'm playing with my boys, I'm playing Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, because all of these systems have different purposes for different groups. But if your goal, which is the goal of the BrOSR, is to build a community of men who are dependable, who will challenge each other to be better, to build the longest lasting campaigns that can go for decades and years, then you want a system like Adventure Conquer King or Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
I think I'm trying to read this guy. It's like MIB Agents. He said he started his kids on Basic Fantasy. I own Basic Fantasy, and that actually, while I haven't really had a chance to play it myself, I've read through it. I've made characters for it.
Yeah.
And it's actually a decent system for it being an old school system. Like one of the characters I made, because I found something that you could be, I made a K9 Paladin character. Oh, yeah. I forgot you got construction going on. It's fine.
I'll mute that. I'll mute that so you guys can, yeah, okay.
Oh, it's no worries. It's fine. It happens. Like it's just a live stream. It's like I'm no one special basically. So
No, dude.
What was
No,
I gonna
dude.
talk about?
Yeah,
Oh no.
up your humble game, bro. Okay, you don't have to be so humble. Yeah, up your game. It's okay to be like, I'm the best. You guys are wrong. Here's why, and then drop a wrestler meme. It's okay. If people get their feelings hurt, bro, like just block them. Like who cares? Like just have fun.
That's why that's what we were talking about. Is I tell people,
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I can hear you. It went all out of sync for a second and froze up, so I didn't know. I think I was actually over talking to you for a second. I apologize for that. I didn't mean to. But okay, so that brings up something because you were talking about people kind of being turds and like the slight jabs at each other, which so like I was saying, how Jeffro does it is completely fine. He's not, again, being a dickhead about it. It's the other turds in the BrOSR that I got to deal with earlier this week, like Mr. Kraft Mac and Cheese on one of them. Like, and I ended up just blocking him, and
he's a great guy actually. Like he supported me when I first came onto the scene. Like he followed me, he shared my stuff around. Like a really nice guy. He always commented on my videos when there was like 20 or 30 people watching my videos. He was always there to support me. So like I know that like he might not be like the nicest guy to you, but that don't let that like the personal interactions like dictate like too much, because whenever I had really bad interactions with the BrOSR guys, they were like teasing me and stuff. I could have taken that the wrong way, like really sat in my feelings and like gotten pretty pissed off about it. Or you can be like, all right, well, you're wrong and here's why, and then like throw a wrestler meme, So like bring your A game. Never on X say every game is okay or like that's your opinion, bro. Nobody needs to hear that. Like, of course it's my opinion. I'm the one who said it. That's just your opinion. No, those qualifying statements are like, they will get you eaten up on X. Here's what you do. You say, this is the answer. Here's why you're wrong. And here's why I'm right. And here are 3 reasons that support my argument.
Okay. And I think that actually kind of brings up to something else we were wanting to talk about was I find it hard to believe that there's like a one all be all answer when again we have this
Mm,
vast library of TTRPGs that exist now. And we were talking
mm,
about it earlier, and I'm going to bring it up now. Was
yeah.
on a previous podcast I did, I
Mhm.
when I was did interviews then too, I interviewed the original creator of the Powered by the Apocalypse system, Vincent D. Baker, his
Very
very
cool.
first game, Apocalypse World. And I remember I asked him the same thing I always ask everyone. Tell me your TTRPG history. Tell me how you got started with
Mm,
that led to where you are now. And he was talking about how back in college, his introduction to TTRPGs was D&D Third Edition.
yeah.
And he said a couple sessions of that he hated it, did not like it. So I'm
Really?
like, I'm gonna do something better, and I'm gonna create something I like that's better.
Mm,
And that's how Powered by the Apocalypse came around to be.
right.
So that's kind of like my thing. It's like these games were basically made by people who either respect, like with Shadow Dark, respected it enough to where they want to do their own take on it. Like, because
Mm,
I find some of these retro clones are really better, especially with how they explain things. Like, especially
mm,
Shadow Dark. Shadow Dark is to the point. This is how you do it. This is what the monster does. Like, I saw someone complain about. Hold on, let me get to the monster page in here really quick because someone explained, so that way I can kind of
oh,
explain
the
this further.
descriptions of the monsters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
description of the monster. I'm like, how much of a description do you need for a monster? If you're a decent game master, at least it should not be
Mm,
hard for you to describe what this monster looks like, because that's part of the play, especially when you're more theater of the mind than miniatures. Because that's one thing I never gotten into the whole miniatures and maps thing. I own like one map that I did for like a in-person gaming event one time.
right.
But other
Yeah.
than that, I've always been theater of the mind, so I'm big on
Okay.
like the descriptions, like the stomping of the giant's feet as it approaches, bending under to go out through the cave entrance kind of deal. Like I've always
Yeah.
been big on the descriptions. So that's why I was like, how much do you actually need to be able to
Mm,
like do that properly? I mean, again, depends on the person, but I mean, at the
right.
same time, come on.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, it depends on the kind of game like you want to play.
Mhm.
I think that, uh, like I said, I don't need the rules of AD&D to teach my 5-year-olds. I use a 2d6 system, and they take the higher number. They compare greater than, less than, or equal to, and that's enough for that tool to accomplish its job, right? But whenever I want to play like really complex games, if I want to play like a war game with high level strategy, with politics, I want to see a game that has like a lot of answers in it.
Sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at a comment that popped up. Apparently, everyone is looking at Lord Mateus's calves now. So,
Oh, bro, there it.
so
Lamentations of the Lord Mateus princess over here. Here we go.
that that's another one that I still have yet to play. I have read through the book. I own the art free version that you can get through
Mm,
drive through, and
yeah,
I've been trying to get onto one of Lord Mateus's games because I'm part of his server, and he does games like in one shots like all the
right.
time for the most part. So I've been
Yeah.
trying my best, but timing never works.
Well, all I know about Lamentations is what Lord Mateus makes videos on. So like that's the only stuff I know. But it looks cool. Looks really cool. Yeah. Looks fun.
Yeah, I like Kung Fu Moondies, Kung Fu Satchel. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to catch up with some of these comments, see if there's anything
Sure, sure.
interesting coming on. Everyone
Mhm.
talking about Lord Mateus's calves. My favorite dirty leprechaun Patty. Just chatting it up with the crew. Dunder Moose. That's another guy that I like. That's kind of that considers to be BrOSR that I've
I
never
don't
had a
like
bad
him.
interaction with. So,
I don't like
huh?
Thunder Moose. I don't like him. He
I
killed my
can't tell if
character.
you're joking or being serious.
He killed my
Oh no, you
character.
told me he killed your character. Yeah, that's right.
And yeah, he let me kill his character once. But that wasn't enough because the level of betrayal wasn't there. In the campaign where he killed my character, we were in an alliance. In the campaign where I killed his character, we were at opposing ends and he was trying to play 2 or 3 different factions against each other, but he didn't really get in close enough with us for us to save him. So the gratification, the satisfaction from killing his character in that second game wasn't the same level he got from betraying everybody in that ATV.
Yeah. So it's funny, because you brought up characters. I remembered, I just actually experienced for the first time ever in my TTRPG history. I actually had my very first character death ever happen to me.
Mm.
And I recommend if you are interested, get Horde Wars. It's only like $7 off Drive Through RPG. It's a
Yeah,
very
I'll probably do
interesting.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and Todd is a great guy. I'm sure he'd love to talk to you if you ever wanted to talk to him. And so I made so you have careers instead of classes, and you pick two, and they each give you different abilities. So I made
Mhm.
a halfling tavern wench Viking character. So short stack muscle mommy, as I described her as, and
Yeah.
she had this fiery red hair, green eyes, and the way she used her flail, it's like you know how like the girls that dance with the ribbon kind of deal. That's how she would
Yeah.
use the flail.
Bro, why
That's
are
how I
you playing
described
girl
it.
characters?
I don't mind at all. It's like one of
You
my best characters right
donkey.
now is a female knight crusader, and she is leading the charge in the name of the creator, which is God in Horde Wars.
Bro. Yeah, I mean, I am kind of interested in Blackwell's game,
Yeah,
Blackwall games. Yeah, I think they're pretty cool. Yeah, but I haven't
yeah,
played it.
yeah. I've seen all the opinions about guys who play female characters are weird. It's like I'm not getting into that now. We could do that another day.
Weird,
So,
weird.
anyways, but no. So what happened was we were exploring these ruins, and we came up across I think like 4 or 5 giants. And my halfling character, I think she went down like 3 or 4 times and kept getting back up
Mm.
because basically one of the Vikings are kind of similar to barbarians. They have a berserker ability, which means they can take less damage and deal more damage at the same time.
Right.
And there was a moment that happened where it's like these giants had an ability where if anyone moved, they were just going to start attacking. So kind of like an attack of opportunity on hold. And it
Mhm.
came to the point where it was my turn where it's like, if I do something, she's gonna go down again. But if I don't do anything and my allies do something, they're gonna get bodied. So I said she stands back up. And she takes the hits for them, relieving them from using that ability and leaving them now open to be attacked by my allies. To where we killed all but one giant who ended up joining our side after the ruins opened up to open up and summon demons from hell. So we had to now
Mm.
they had to close that. Tried to save my character. She ended up dying before they could get her back. But I mean, it was really cool because of like the way she went out was just like
Yeah.
super badass because it was
Yeah.
like she kept going down, getting back up. Because I was playing her as like this fiery person, like that just didn't take anything, and so it's like I knew that, and it was also part of like it was also like me as a player knowing like I have to do this. I can't just not do anything and let them take all the damage, kind of deal.
Super awesome.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
really
No,
awesome.
I play in games where it's usually it's death at 0, and so the idea of like a heroic death just doesn't really get to come up because it's like always accidental death. It's like, oh, well, I failed my save versus poison game.
Yeah,
Opening
but
character.
but Horde Wars they have like stuff for traps. They have because right now in the we're doing a campaign, we're doing domain play currently in the Gilded server, and the way we're doing is for the one time. So every one day in world, that's 4 days passes. So in a
Right.
week we go through a month, and then we
Mm.
have like some art. We have an RP channel where it's like if we're like we're having to do interactions throughout that week of stuff that we
Mm.
set up because we do
Yeah.
currently we do domain play every Sunday. So whatever we set up for whatever events and so we have like 2 main events, 2 characters each. We'll do those events. Like right now, I have I have another character. He's an orc crusader blade master, and so I know everyone. I know the whole argument about the orcs. We're not going into that right now. That's another story for another day. But the reason that orcs are a species in this game playable because Todd was a big fan of half orcs when he started
Right.
playing D&D. That was his thing. So that's why orcs are playable. And sometimes there's like a few orcs that end up becoming crusaders. It's rare, but there's a few, and mine is one of the few. Because he was my very first character, still alive, still kicking. He's also known as the Agent of Chaos by everyone in the server because how I used to play him is he would just run right into the fight because of
Yeah.
because he was really strong. The orcs can regenerate after a minute if they don't take hits, basically. So
Oh, cool.
and
That's
plus
fun.
he's got heavy armor, so he's hard to hit and he hits hard. So that's why. And now he's been on this, but now Todd spun it on his head, and now I got him on a stealth mission to invade this
Okay.
Dracaran keep, which
You
Dracarans are kind
don't
of
see
like.
me.
Yeah. Did you ever see that story about Crod the stealth guy? It's like where he
You don't
his
see Krog.
you don't see Crod.
Yeah, that's
John's
awesome, man. So yeah, I know I know he's a big fan of like a 4-to-1, and then I think there was like another another time scale. I think that's like that's more complicated than 1-to-1 time. Like 1-to-1 time is the easiest system to use because you just look at the calendar, you're like, oh, it's today. You know, like that. It's
Yeah.
just so much easier.
Yeah, we're about to go in time drill again though soon because he's about to attend a con again this weekend. So after this Sunday, we're going to be in time jail again because we were in time jail the week before because he was at one con, and now we're about to be
Yeah.
in time jail again because he's about to go to another con, and we're not going to be able to have domain play the Sunday after this one. But
Yeah. So
then the
like
week after,
queue up some really cool activities for your character to do, like some training or something.
yeah, like
Crafty
ooh,
magic
let me tell you
items.
about yeah, like there's one thing. So the one giant that survived that ended up joining our side, he gave that stat block to me to use as kind of like a quote unquote playable character. So I now have this really powerful giant. Ajax the Giant is his name. So he's going to be returning back to town this Sunday because basically there's some stones that you can travel to, but we didn't know they existed in that area at the time. So we were
Okay.
basically walking back, and this
Yeah.
week he's coming back. I have one elf wizard character that he's a really young, like he's young in age. He's like 50, so he's like barely like an adult by elven years.
Right.
And there's a elven settlement on the island of Carwyn that's been overrun by a blight of goblins and like orcs and stuff. And
Mm.
so one of the ideas that we've been pondering about is we want to go fight and save the elven tribes from the goblins and try to figure out how to do that. So my idea is because sometimes if there's like so few people, we'll be allowed like, hey, bring two characters, not just one. So I'm thinking me and two other guys will each we're gonna bring like a army of we're gonna bring like a wizard patrol with some couple heavy hitters. So I'm thinking my wizard and my giants, and then the guys bring like a wizard and maybe one of their heavy hitters, and we're like the mercenary strike team, just
Yeah.
eliminating
You
the
got every
goblins.
goblin. Yeah, just destroy every goblin. Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I made sure it's like, hey, Todd, do giants hate goblins? It's like they hate anything that's smaller than them. Good.
Little people.
Yeah, that was the running joke was my halfling character who's like, again, halfling. So the giants are like, that's small there. So it's like, you all look the same to us.
Really tiny. I love that.
Yeah.
So, any more questions for me, man? Like, I don't know if I talked about everything. Definitely didn't get into everything, but
Let's see. We mentioned well there wasn't really a lot to talk about 1-to-1 time because I mean that's kind of understandable. I already know enough about that from Harmony, and so I
right.
think we
And
just
you
we
use
touched on that a little
4-to-1,
bit.
man.
Yeah. The Bronstein, Patron Play, why AD&D is great.
Yeah.
What BrOSR is actually supposed to be. Why a lot of the BrOSR happen to be turds half the time. And I think, and I just kind of, I think that was basically it. I don't know if we are missing anything. If we did, I'm pretty sure it's going to hit us once we leave. But
Sure. Oh yeah, I wanted to say that. Yeah, but I
yeah,
mean, yeah, cool, man. Well, I mean, I really appreciate you having me on, dude. I know you said you want to keep it an hour, so like,
yeah,
we're a
this is
little,
a.
yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I figured we go over a little bit, but I mean,
Yeah, it's super cool of you to invite me here, man. Like, I love doing this kind of stuff. I could talk about like D&D all day. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you.
Now, I will admit, you haven't converted me. I don't think I would ever
Okay.
like. I don't like maybe adjacent in some ways, but I don't think I would ever be fully BrOSR. But this does help me kind of understand a little more to where I'm not just like, oh, these BrOSR guys are nuts. I feel like I have a better understanding of it now, to where
Yeah.
it's like I'll be able like again, guys like Jeffro, I got no issues with him. I think again, he's just a weird, funny guy. It's like I like your funny words, Magic Man, that kind of deal.
He's a
And
good
then,
dude. He's a good dude.
yeah. And so, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you real quick before we close this tonight?
Sure. I am over on X if you want to hear about different kind of ramblings or me arguing sarcastically with people at Scudder for Mike. But YouTube is where you really want to find me because like that's where I put all my we do solo plays. We talk about gaming philosophy. Scuddifer_Mike at YouTube. Thanks for
All
having me
right,
on
and
here. Really cool.
yeah, this was great. And they can find you on X too, right?
Yeah, I'm on X. Yeah.
Yeah, just think. Oh, it's Mike Pew Pew is what you go by.
Oh, right, yeah.
MICPEWPEW.
MICPEWPEW. It's a play on my last name, which I'm
Pew
not
pew.
gonna put out there. But yeah.
Perfectly fine. So
Yeah.
again, I was very thankful that you got to come on. I'm glad we got to have this conversation. I definitely felt like I got to learn a lot, which was my reasoning for wanting to do this to begin with.
Yeah, man.
So,
Super fun.
all right, and thank you, chat, for joining us tonight. We hoped you enjoyed listening to our craziness and just our love for TTRPGs, because regardless of what we play, we both love what we're doing. So I think that's the most important thing at the end of the day.
Yes.
All right. Y'all have a good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.